Today we'll look at the real reason behind the government shutdown and the debate over giving free health care to illegal aliens, a debate that shouldn't be a debate at all. Also, leaked text messages reveal that Charlie Kirk had decided to, quote, leave the pro-Israel cause. We'll talk about that. And a Democratic candidate for governor has a total meltdown on camera because she was asked the easiest softball question of all time. Plus, China just accomplished another amazing engineering marvel. America used to do that kind of stuff all the time. What happened to that? We'll talk about all that and more today on The Matt Walsh Show. History, economics, literature, the Constitution. Did you actually study these in school? Probably not. Or you got some watered down version that missed the point entirely. Time and technology have changed a lot of things, but they have not changed basic fundamental truth about the world, our country, and our place in it. That's why I want to share something I think that you'd find valuable. Hillsdale College is offering more than 40 free online courses that cover everything from C.S. Lewis and Genesis to the Roman Republic and early Christian history. I've been really enjoying their Constitution 101 course, which dives deep into the design and purpose of our Constitution, the challenges it faced during the Civil War, and how it's been undermined over the past century by progressive and liberal ideologies. The course is completely self-paced with 12 lectures, so you can start whenever you want and finish whenever you want. Honestly, I believe our country desperately needs more Americans who truly understand the Constitution and can stand up for our freedoms against an increasingly large and unaccountable government. If you care about preserving what makes America great, I encourage you to check out this free Constitution 101 course. It's a great eye-opener to how much we've drifted from our founding principles. Go right now to hillsdale.edu/Walsh to enroll. There's no cost. It's easy to get started. That's hillsdale.edu/Walsh to enroll for free. hillsdale.edu/Walsh. Look, I'll be honest with you. Between work, kids, all the different activities you have with kids and trying to squeeze in some fishing time as well, very important. Our family dinners become a lot more chaotic than we prefer. And that's why I'm actually excited about what Good Ranchers is doing this fall. They're challenging families to get back to the table every Thursday night through Thanksgiving. And before you roll your eyes thinking this is some impossible Pinterest mom fantasy, hear me out. Good Ranchers delivers 100% American meat raised on local farms right to your door. Here's the game changer for busy families. Everything comes pre-portioned and triple trimmed. That means less time wrestling with a chunk of beef and more time actually sitting down together. I used to think you could only get a really great steak at an expensive steakhouse, but Good Ranchers delivers that same quality right to your door, right to my door. And I love their steaks. Now I can impress my family on the grill without dropping $100 every time that we eat out. Plus, they're doing weekly giveaways for a free holiday ham. Just post your Thursday dinner on Instagram with back to the table, hashtag back to the table, and tag Good Ranchers. It's easy. And who doesn't like a chance to win free food? I know I do. Here's the deal. Go to goodranchers.com and use my code Walsh for $40 off plus free meat for life when you subscribe. That's $40 off and free meat for life. Goodranchers.com. Let's get back to the table. History is rife with the names of great men who, through no fault of their own, were imprisoned at one point or another. And during their incarceration, instead of wasting their time, they produced meaningful works of literature. Sir Walter Raleigh wrote The History of the World while imprisoned in the Tower of London. Sir Thomas More wrote A Dialogue of Comfort Against Tribulation during his stint in the same prison. John Bunyan wrote The Pilgrim's Progress from jail. The Apostle Paul, of course, wrote several epistles while under house arrest, and so on and so on and so on. If there's a lesson we can draw from all these examples, it would seem to be that even when they're confronted with a major disruption to their day-to-day life, productive and creative and people and great men still find a way to make use of their time. They don't wallow in self-pity and narcissism. Instead, they adapt to their new situation. They use their intellect in creative ways, and they keep going. Take a group of motivated and smart individuals, hand them a setback, and they'll overcome it, and even use it to their advantage. Of course, that raises the obvious question, what happens in the opposite scenario? What happens when you take an extremely lazy and unintelligent and unimpressive group of people and hand them a minor setback to their day-to-day lives? How do monumentally untalented and self-absorbed people react when their mindless routine is disrupted, even for a moment? If they don't produce the Pilgrim's Progress, what do they produce exactly? Unfortunately for any sociology professors out there who were hoping to run this experiment, we now have the definitive answer to that question. That's because, as you probably haven't noticed in any way, hundreds of thousands of federal government workers have been furloughed since October 1st as part of the ongoing government shutdown. And during this furlough, thousands of federal government workers have been keeping themselves busy, and not by producing any great works of literature, of course, but instead by producing an overwhelming number of vapid TikToks that have been polluting the internet for more than a week at this point. They're eating popsicles, they're miming rap lyrics, they're taking videos of themselves looking at mirrors, and they want the world to know about all this for some reason.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I don't know how I'm supposed to pay the bills. Probably have to start selling crack. Or rapping. Or rapping about selling crack.
Day 4 of furlough, and it just keeps getting better and better. I have never been unemployed before.
Now, if you're tempted to excuse any of this inane behavior, maybe you're inclined to say these people can do whatever they want on their own time, you should know that some federal government workers are indeed being told that they need to commute to the office during the shutdown, and rest assured, those workers are uploading TikToks too.
Because I don't need any of that. I need some water and my check, and that's all I need, honey. I show up, I do what you asked me to do, and goodbye.
Caught out there. I hate you so much right now. 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 I hate you so much right now.
What makes the videos of these public servants, big air quotes around that, even more enraging than they might seem, as if that's possible, is that the government shutdown isn't really about any of these people. I mean, yes, they're glorified welfare recipients with fake jobs, and we shouldn't have to pay their salaries. But the government shutdown is actually about a separate set of taxpayer handouts. And specifically, Democrats want to renew federal subsidies for Obamacare plans, and they want to reverse Medicaid cuts that Donald Trump just signed into law, including cuts that would impose new work requirements and kick so-called asylum seekers off of the program. Now, last week, as you might remember, I indicated that, I didn't really want to talk about the government shutdown. There's a reason for that. When you do this job long enough, you begin to realize that government shutdowns are not, in fact, a big deal. For one thing, as we just established, government workers are useless, so no one cares if they're working or not. And not all. 85 to 90% of them are useless, I should stipulate. There's maybe 10 to 15% that we need. And secondly, in pretty much every case, the government shutdown gets resolved and nothing changes. Doesn't matter. Usually whatever the dispute is about, they just kick the can down the road and it's all for nothing. It doesn't matter and nobody should care. But in this case, it is worth taking just a moment to talk about what's happening, if only because of the sheer volume of lying that we're all being subjected to. So here's just one example from CBS's Face the Nation. Watch.
You know what they counter-propose? They want to spend $1.5 trillion, and they want to return hard-working taxpayer dollars to fund health care for illegal aliens. Yeah. It is in their bill. Go to speaker.gov and see it for yourself. Page 57, section 2141. They're using this for political games, and it is shameful, and real people are getting hurt.
I have looked at that text. It doesn't explicitly say what you are indicating, but unauthorized immigrants aren't eligible for ACA
yes,
benefits.
It does. It says very simply they want to repeal the changes that we made in the Working Families Tax Cut, the One Big Beautiful Bill. And what those changes were is it removed health care going to illegal aliens. It removed all the fraud, waste, and abuse. And the Congressional Budget Office, CBO, said it achieved the desired result. They project it'll save almost $200 billion. Chuck Schumer's proposal on page 57 wants to return that $200 billion of taxpayer funds to pay for illegal aliens and other non-citizens. That is a fact. And you can check it out on my website, speaker.gov. Don't trust me. Look at Chuck Schumer's own paperwork.
Now, the anchorwoman tries to fact check him, but she doesn't actually make a point. He says that Democrats want to repeal the new Medicaid restrictions that Donald Trump signed into law earlier this year, which would have the effect of allowing more illegals to access the program. She just says, he's wrong and shakes her head a few times. Rolling Stone attempted a similar fact check after Mike Johnson's appearance, and here's the key line from their article, quote, "It's important to note that undocumented immigrants broadly do not qualify for Medicaid, Affordable Care Act subsidies, or other federally funded health care coverage." The word broadly is obviously doing a lot of work there. Whenever you see a hedge word like that, whether they, where they can't say something in a clear, definitive way, that's a very good indication that they're hiding something or they're lying. And in reality, illegal immigrants aren't allowed to access Medicaid in the same way that you aren't allowed to go through a stop sign without coming to a complete stop. It's a restriction in practice that's basically meaningless. Illegal aliens, as a matter of objective, observable fact, are allowed to enroll in Medicaid. They do. It's something that does happen all the time. That's the point. And I'm not just talking about emergency coverage either. Go on the website of states like New York, Massachusetts, California, Colorado, North Carolina, Oregon, and you'll often find explicit statements that Medicaid coverage is provided for illegals, including for primary care. And you're seeing some of those websites on your screen right now. It's not exactly a well-kept secret. They're not doing much to hide it. New York offers managed Medicaid care plans for illegals. Illegals in Massachusetts are entitled to, quote, full scope Massachusetts Medicaid coverage, and on and on and on. You can see it there. In Illinois, even the paper of record admits what's going on here. They just do it in a somewhat roundabout way. So here's a headline from the Chicago Tribune, for example, quote, in Illinois, adult immigrants ages 42 to 64 without legal status have lost their health care to save an estimated $404 million. And the article is entitled, Illinois among Democrat-led states rolling back Medicaid access. Now, put two and two together, you don't have to be a math genius to conclude that, indeed, so-called immigrants without legal status, otherwise known as illegal immigrants, were indeed receiving Medicaid benefits. The Denver Post admits that the same thing is happening in Colorado and many other states. Here's one of their recent headlines, quote, Colorado and 19 other states sue the federal government Tuesday to prevent Medicaid data from being used for immigration enforcement. Well, that's an interesting development. How could Medicaid data be used for immigration enforcement? I mean, if illegal aliens have nothing to do with Medicaid because they can't access it, then you would think that ICE would have no use for Medicaid data. But of course, illegal aliens are indeed receiving taxpayer-funded health care. It's happening all the time. And Democrats are doing everything they can, including filing lawsuits, to prevent this fraud from being exposed and stopped. On the Democrat side, they'll often claim that only state funds are being used to fund these programs. They'll say that even though these are Medicaid programs, only state-level taxpayers are footing the bill. And first of all, even if that were true, it would still be an outrage. No taxpayer should be forced to fund health care for people who have no right to be in this country. But on top of that, this claim is simply a lie. Federal funds are used in these programs all the time, often as part of a shell game using federal tax revenue, which is carefully engineered to obscure the truth. Congressman Eric Burleson of Missouri recently posted a video of how this scam works in California, and it's worth watching because he lays out the details pretty clearly for what can be a pretty complicated topic. Watch.
California figured this out, that they can force the federal government to spend $9 for every $1 that it spends, and they're using it to launder money. And this is the way they do it. And it costs no money to California because they raise taxes on managed care companies, the companies that are providing Medicaid. So they go to these companies and say, we're going to tax you, but don't worry, we're going to give you all of the money that we just taxed you right back. But in the meantime, we're going to take that money and we're going to pull down federal dollars, and that'll let us have more money so that we can spend it on expanding the population for Medicaid and spend it on illegal immigrants. In fact, this scheme has allowed California to spend nearly $4 billion to put illegal immigrants to pay for illegal immigrants to have Medicaid. $4 billion. This is crazy. And this total scheme is spending more money in federal dollars in California that we send in federal dollars than the entire state of Florida spends in 1 year in their entire annual budget. So this is absurd. This has to be corrected.
Altogether, by conservative estimates, there are roughly 1.5 million illegal aliens who are currently receiving Medicaid benefits, along with nearly 5 million able-bodied individuals who receive Medicaid benefits but choose not to work. This is massive, massive, massive fraud on a national scale, costing us hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars. Even in relatively small states like Connecticut, the cost is astronomical. Here's a recent assessment from CT Insider, for example, quote, at least $80 million in state funds have been used to pay for health care for children and expected and postpartum mothers without legal immigration status since this coverage became available through Connecticut's Medicaid program 2 years ago. Meanwhile, in Texas, as you might expect, the numbers are even higher. And as you can see here, in just 4 months, from November of 2024 to February of 2025, more than 100,000 patients in Texas hospitals admitted that they weren't in the country legally. And that includes 23,000 inpatient discharges and 85,000 emergency department visits. At the same time, more than 600,000 patients refused to provide their immigration status. And again, the vast majority of people who declined to answer were receiving emergency care. So we can assume, of course, that the vast majority of those 600,000 patients are also illegal aliens. It's the only reason that you wouldn't want to give your status. According to official estimates from the state, in total, illegal aliens cost Texas hospitals more than $120 million per month. So when I said this is costing us hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars nationwide, that's a vast understatement. $120 million a month in one state. And again, the important thing to consider here isn't simply the cost, which is obviously too high. It's also important to recognize that even if the illegal aliens were somehow paying for their own care, which they're not, they're still creating a massive drain on our healthcare system. They're making it harder for American citizens to get the care they need. They're filling up emergency rooms and doctors' offices at a time when doctors are, in increasingly short supply. And by itself, that's more than enough reason to deny illegals any access to Medicaid or to our healthcare system in general. You're not supposed to be here. Go to your own country and get healthcare. When the system is collapsing, the absolute last thing we can do or should do is allow the entire world to access it and then ultimately destroy it. Even some Democrat institutions are finally coming around to this realization. The Washington Post editorial board, of all places, just published an editorial that supports Republicans' position on the Obamacare-related aspect of the government shutdown. Quote, Democrats have demanded that Republicans agree to extend the COVID-era insurance subsidies without proposing any way to pay for it. This will cost $350 billion over the next decade. The real problem is that the Affordable Care Act was never actually affordable. Well, it's a belated reaction, to put it mildly. It's about 15 years too late, in fact, but it's something. It's an indication that everyone, even the deranged partisans who read the Washington Post, understand that Democrats have no credibility whatsoever when it comes to healthcare, which was their primary policy objective for the 8 years of Barack Obama's presidency. Their signature issue has been a complete debacle. It's an unmitigated disaster. It's this recent history that we should keep in mind when they try to fact-check claims that illegal aliens are receiving federal healthcare benefits. Before Obamacare, if you were a healthy young person, you didn't have to subsidize anyone else's insurance. You didn't have to purchase comprehensive coverage that you didn't need. You could pay out of pocket for most visits and keep coverage for the most serious life-threatening issues like cancer. The system that replaced this arrangement was a disastrous deal for most Americans, and it became a completely unworkable, catastrophic deal when Americans were forced to subsidize the healthcare plans of millions of foreign nationals on top of their fellow citizens. As a result, this government shutdown should continue indefinitely until we have assurance that no illegal aliens will receive any taxpayer-funded healthcare at all. Yes, a long shutdown means that we'll have to endure thousands of more insufferable TikTok videos from furloughed federal bureaucrats. But it also means that we'll have a functioning healthcare system eventually. It means we'll save hundreds of millions of dollars every month. And that's a trade that, unless you're an illegal alien or a federal government worker, that's a trade that we should take every single time. Now let's get to our 5 headlines. Well, let me paint you a picture. It's Tuesday morning. You reach for your supplements and vitamins and empty bottle. Great. Now you get to spend your lunch break driving to some overpriced vitamin store because you forgot to reorder again. And hear me out, you could just make it automatic. I became a Balance of Nature preferred customer because, honestly, I have better things to do than remember when I'm running low on supplements. Every 28 days, they just show up like clockwork, no brain power required. And here's the part that's actually pretty great. You get the lowest price they offer every single time. No coupon hunting, no flash sale nonsense, just the best price automatically. And shipping, totally free every month. Nice to see a company that doesn't nickel and dime you to death. But here's what really surprised me. You get your own personal health coach, an actual human who checks in with you and helps you keep on track. They look at the whole picture, mind, body, spirit, pretty solid approach if you ask me. Look, consistency isn't about being perfect. It's about showing up every day. And the easiest routines are the ones you don't have to think about. Go to balanceofnature.com. Use promo code Walsh for 35% off your first order. It's preferred customer plus. Get a free bottle of Fiber Spice. That's balanceofnature.com. Promo code Walsh. Your future self will thank you. What started as an idea is now the podcast and business blasting through your earbuds. Launching your own business is pretty much on everyone's bucket list, but most people let it collect dust right next to learn a language and get abs. Stop hiding behind lame excuses like, I don't have the skills, I can't do it alone. Turn those what ifs into bold why nots with Shopify backing your ideas. They've got the tools, you just need to take the chance. Shopify is the commerce platform behind millions of businesses around the world and 10% of all e-commerce in the U.S. We even use it for our own Daily Wire shop to make sure things are running smoothly and efficiently so you get all the goods. You might be asking, what if I can't design a website or I'm worried people haven't heard of my brand? Not a problem. Shopify's got you covered from the start with beautiful, ready-to-go templates that match your brand's style and help you find your customers through easy-to-run email and social media campaigns. And if you need a hand with everyday tasks, their AI tools created specifically for commerce can help enhance product images and write descriptions and more. Plus, their award-winning customer support is available 24/7 to share advice if you ever get stuck. Turn those dreams into and give them the best shot at success with Shopify. Sign up for your $1 per month trial and start selling today at shopify.com/Walsh. Go to shopify.com/Walsh, shopify.com/Walsh. Okay, let's talk about this. The Daily Mail reports Charlie Kirk furiously criticized bullying Jewish donors and said he was considering leaving the pro-Israel cause before his death. It was confirmed today. The bombshell revelation comes after Candace Owen released a screenshot of Kirk fuming in a group chat that Jewish donors were pulling funding over his links to Tucker Carlson. Turning Point spokesman Andrew Colvett confirmed the authenticity of the screenshots on Tuesday during the latest episode of the Charlie Kirk Show. In text messages, Kirk privately complained that a Jewish donor had withdrawn a $2 million investment into the organization because he refused to disinvite Carlson from the upcoming America Fest event. He wrote, just lost another huge Jewish donor, $2 million a year because we won't cancel Tucker. I'm thinking of inviting Candace. Jewish donors play into all the stereotypes. I cannot and will not be bullied like this. And then he concludes, leaving me no choice but to leave the pro-Israel cause. Okay, so that's the story. So Charlie Kirk said in his text exchange that he was fed up with Jewish donors and that they live down to all the stereotypes and that he has no choice but to leave the pro-Israel cause. And I have to tell you that I saw these texts like everyone else did when Candace released them. And I thought, I didn't say anything because I wanted to see how it played out, but I thought there was like a 40 or 50% chance that they were fake or at least partially fake. I didn't think that Candace faked them. I thought maybe someone else had faked it, given her something fake and lied to her. And the reason I thought that, it was really just because of that final line. Just that final line, the line about leaving the pro-Israel cause, like in those words exactly. It felt just kind of on the nose. It's just so definitive, like the kind of thing a person might make up. But it turns out that it was not fake. Andrew Colvett, who, by the way, is great, doing a heroic job, I think, helping to steer the ship after this tragedy, after this atrocity. but he's confirmed them. So that's that. And I think the takeaway here, well, there's two things I want to say. First of all, let me tell you what this doesn't prove. It does not prove that Charlie was in any way dishonest or not forthright, or anything like that. And Candace, of course, has not accused him of that or implied it at all, just to be clear. But I have seen people on social media trying to twist this stuff to smear him in that way. So that is something that you see. And it's not fair and it's not true. Charlie, in fact, expressed, first of all, he expressed a lot of these frustrations publicly. That's the first thing. And as a public person, he's also under no obligation to run out into the public in front of an audience, in front of a camera or a microphone, and just blab whatever thought or feeling he most recently had in his head. Right? He's not under any obligation to have a thought or feeling and say, I got to tell everybody right away. In fact, his obligation, especially in the position that he was in, as not just a public figure, not just a media personality, but also the head of an organization, a very powerful, large, important organization. His obligation is really close to the opposite of that. In his position, his responsibility was to be honest, of course, and he was honest. But also you have to be prudent and you have to be measured and you have to be thoughtful in what you say and when you say it and how you say it. And he was working through some really difficult things and he wanted to sort all that out within himself personally. I'm assuming before he said it in front of an audience. So, and that's what you see here. So there's nothing that makes me feel any different about Charlie at all. He was, as I said the day after he was killed in my first show back, he was a great man. I've said many times since, he was a great man, and a virtuous and honest man, very, admirably honest, unusually honest, in particular in politics and in this business. And that still is the case. Hasn't changed at all. Secondly, okay, so the pro-Israel side lost Charlie Kirk. That's what he said in his message, in his own words. Now, he may have been venting. He may have been expressing frustration. He obviously was doing that. He may not have flipped over to being actually actively anti-Israel. He didn't say that, but he did say that, hey, they lost me. And they lost him because of how he was being treated and what he saw behind closed doors. And he was obviously not alone in feeling that way. Because listen, the pro-Israel side, as Charlie called it, has lost the majority of the American public. It doesn't have the left at all, which who cares? That's fine. But it also doesn't have a huge chunk of the right. And it wasn't always that way. It doesn't have the younger generation, like at all. It doesn't have support globally. It's just failed to persuade the vast majority of people. That's the fact. That's the reality. And at some point, if you're on the pro-Israel side, you really need to be honest with yourself and engage in some actual honest self-reflection and self-analysis. You really do. Because you're losing the argument. I mean, you're just losing it. You are. And I've never seen any side of any argument lose this much support this quickly. I can't think of any other example of something like this. And if you're on that side, you need to have the courage and humility to ask yourself what you're doing wrong. Now, sure, when you are going out with a message and nobody is buying it, and even people who were buying it suddenly are not anymore. Now, you could say, oh, well, it's everybody but me. It's all them. Everyone is against me and it's all their fault. And I'm not doing anything wrong. It's possible that's the case. In the whole history of the world, when people feel ganged up on and I'm not doing anything wrong and they're doing everything wrong, on occasion that could be true. But most of the time in life, you got to look at common denominators. And most of the time in life, when you're going around and your message is just not resonating with anyone almost, you got to look at yourself. That's the case most of the time. But that doesn't seem to happen. You know, I don't see a lot of like self-reflection here. And there really should be, especially now. I mean, this should be the kind of thing. If you're on that side of the argument and you see these text messages, it's the kind of thing that should make you sit back and go, wow. I mean, even Charlie was feeling that way. But instead, what happens is that typically they'll do what the donors were doing to Charlie, apparently, scold and point fingers and throw the anti-Semitism charge around. And I mean, they'll do it to me because of what I'm saying right now, right? This is going to get clipped and it's going to be, oh, see, he's woke, right? He's anti-Semitic. He's, you know, that's going to happen. That's going to happen. I will get rebuked even by some people who I would consider friends or at least friendly. So it's like you can just, it's like, you know, it's going to happen. It will, and they won't be able to help themselves and they will do it. Even though everything I'm saying right now is just true. I'm giving you an analysis of the state of affairs, and it's not any kind of, you don't have to be a genius to figure this out. If you did, I wouldn't have figured it out because I'm not a genius. But you can look around and see, like, okay, clearly you're losing the argument. And if you're going to conduct any kind of honest inventory here, this is the first place you should start. And I'll tell you, the first major mistake you've made is that you push out your allies or your potential allies if they don't toe the line 100%. 100% perfect, clean record of being pro-Israel in every way, in all cases, all the time, always. If they fail that test, you push them out, you label them woke right, you label them anti-Semitic. And that's what Charlie experienced. He was very pro-Israel, but he also was friends with Tucker and wanted to have a conversation with Tucker. Which also makes sense. He was, that's the right thing, by the way. It's not just that Charlie was perfectly justified and had every right to talk to whoever he wants and to platform whoever he wants. That, of course, is true. But he didn't just have the right to do it. He was right to do it. Yeah, if you're going to have a big event like America Fest, huge event, great event, I'll be at it this year. Yeah, Tucker should be there. It would be absurd for him not to be there. But what Charlie experienced is that because of that, well, we're going to withdraw our money. We're going to take the funding away. And yeah, you have the right to do that. You have the right to take your money and do what you want with it. But this is the problem. Okay, this is why it doesn't work. It's not persuasive. People see that and they say, okay, well, you're just a bully and you won't, and you will not allow any conversation to happen at all. And I've encountered a version of this too many times. As everyone knows, everyone knows my position, and it hasn't changed. It's that I'm not pro or anti-Israel. I'm not pro or anti any foreign country. I'm very consistent about that. I don't care about any country but my own. That's just my opinion. That's my perspective. Might not be yours. You might feel that it's wrong. You might feel that it's too simplistic. You might feel however you want to feel about it. I don't really care. That's just my perspective. It always has been. Always has been. My entire adult life, I'm very consistent about this. I don't want foreign aid to any country, including Israel. And I always call out when I feel the U.S. is getting involved in something that it shouldn't get involved in. And if they're getting involved in something, from my perspective, for the sake of Israel, and I don't think they should, I'll say that. I was against the Iran intervention. So I'll call that out. I'll also call out the Islamic invasion of the U.S. I spent several days just over the past couple of weeks talking about that. I did multiple shows just about the situation in Dearborn. I've talked about many, many times. I've spent a lot of time on importing, Somalis into places like Minnesota. So I'll talk about that too. So I think I'm pretty damn consistent in my own principles when it comes to this stuff. And Again, you don't have to share those principles, but they're mine, and I'm consistent about it. America first. I call out anything that I think is not America first. I also call out the Israel obsession on the other side, the anti-Israel side, the tendency to bring everything back to Israel all the time, even if it doesn't have anything to do with it. There's a tendency on that side to be Israel first from the other direction. I've made that point countless times on this show, on X, on every platform. Just being consistent, which means that if you're pro-Israel, you may not agree with some of my takes, but there's no reason why I should be your enemy, because you'll also agree with a lot of my other takes. And yet I've been labeled woke right, anti-Semitic. I just saw this today. I don't even know who it was, just a tweet that popped up. One of many. I see them all the time, but someone was, I was just catching some conversation. I wasn't even about me, but I was catching a stray. Someone said, oh, Matt Walsh is constantly engaging in anti-Semitic tropes. And I see this all the time. It's like, what? What are you even talking about? But this is what they're talking about. It's just not towing the line 100%. And I don't toe any line. I mean, the only line I toe is my own line. I have my own line, I have my own line, the things that I care about, and that's what I toe. I don't toe any other lines. And like I said, that's going to happen in reaction to what I'm saying right now. And that's your problem. This all or nothing strategy. It's not working. It is failing utterly and totally. It just is. So that was my reaction to this news. Just being honest with you. I actually am genuinely surprised that Charlie had been pushed away from that side. And I know everybody now wants to say about Charlie, oh, see, I knew all along. I knew. Well, I didn't know. I didn't know about this at all. I'm sincerely surprised. And that's my honest feeling. And to me, the takeaway here is that the side that Charlie himself identifies as the pro-Israel side, well, they managed to alienate and push away Charlie Kirk. And if you're on that side, you should really, really stop and think about that. You just should. Rather than screaming at me for telling you to stop and think about it, you should actually stop and think about it. All right, let's brighten the mood with a fun video. This is Katie Porter, formerly known as somehow one of the most insufferable Democrats in Congress. And she managed to claim that title amid all the really intense competition. Now she's running for governor of California, and it's not going well. Here she is sitting down with a reporter. This is a reporter from CBS News, I believe. So a friendly reporter, friendly outlet, on her side. And watch how this goes. Listen.
What do you say to the 40% of California voters who you'll need in order to win, who voted for Trump?
How would I need them in order to win, ma'am?
Well, unless you think you're going to get 60% of the vote. You think you'll get 60%. Everybody who did not vote for Trump will vote for you. That's what you're saying.
In a general election, yes. If it is me versus a Republican, I think that I will win the people who did not vote for Trump.
What if it's you versus another Democrat?
I don't intend that to be the case.
So how do you not intend that to be the case? Are you going to ask them not to run?
No, I'm saying I'm going to build the support. I have the support already in terms of name recognition. Mm-hmm. And so I'm going to do the very best I can to make sure that we get through this primary in a really strong position. But
so you don't
I feel like this is unnecessarily argumentative. What is your question?
The question is the same thing I asked everybody, that this is being called the empowering voters to stop Trump's power grab. Every other candidate has answered this question. This is not
correct. And I said I support it.
So, and the question is, what do you say to the 40% of voters who voted for Trump?
Oh, I'm happy to say that. It's the do you need them to win part that I don't understand. I'm happy to answer the question as you have it written, and I'll answer it.
And we've also asked the other candidates, do you think you need any of those 40% of California voters to win? And you're saying, no, you don't.
No, I'm saying I'm going to try to win every vote I can. And what I'm saying to you is that...
Well, to those voters. Okay, so you...
I don't want to keep doing this. I'm going to call it. Okay. Thank you.
You're not going to do the interview with us?
Nope, not like this. I'm not. Not with 7 follow-ups to every single question you ask.
Every other candidate has answered
I don't
our
care.
follow-ups.
I don't care. I want to have a pleasant, positive conversation in which you ask me about every issue on this list. And if every question you're going to make up a follow-up question, then we're never going to get there. I don't want to have an unhappy experience with you. And I don't want this all on camera.
I don't want to have an unhappy experience with you either. I would love to continue to ask these questions so that we can show our viewers what every candidate feels about every one of these issues that they care about. And redistricting, it's a massive issue. We're going to do an entire story just on the responses to that question. And I've asked everybody the same follow-up questions.
Well, a little late for that, Katie. After melting down on camera for 3 minutes, she finally says that she doesn't want to do this on camera. And the hilarious and revealing thing is that the meltdown was precipitated, you just saw there, by the easiest, most softball question you could possibly imagine. All she was asked is what she will say, how she will reach out to voters on the other side. That's all she was asked. That is politician 101 stuff, okay? That's not anything close to a gotcha or a trap question. It's the opposite. It's not a curveball. This is a T-ball. Okay, it's not a curveball question. It's a T-ball question. The ball is right there on the tee. It's sitting right. All you have to do is just swing, and you almost can't help but hit it. And instead, she refused to swing. She walked up to the tee, threw her bat down, and said, "This is too hard. The ball's moving too fast." What do you mean the ball's not moving at all? It's not fair. So amazing performance, truly. And the answer would have been so easy, Katie. The answer's so easy. What are you going to do to reach out to all the Republicans? Here's all you say. Well, what I say to voters on the other side is, I will fight for you. I will fight for all Californians. We're all in this together. Whatever. Something like that. Basic stuff, easy. And she lost it. In the history of politician interviews, has anyone ever stormed out because of an easier question? Have you ever seen a less warranted storm out? Maybe one. The only one that comes to mind is I think I have the title when Congressman Mark Takano stormed out of our interview and What is a Woman? Because I asked him, what is a woman? So this is second to that. This is a very close second. And what accounts for this meltdown? Well, 3 things. And I think everyone is focused on the first 2 that I'll list, not so much the third. But the first is that Katie Porter is, first of all, just a miserable person, an awful, vile human being. She's been accused of physical and emotional abuse by her ex-husband. She's accused of abusive behavior by her former staff members. So there's a definite pattern here. There's a common denominator, and it's Katie Porter. And then you see this, and it certainly supports the claim that she's abusive behind the scenes. When you see this, I mean, not every claim like that is true. I mean, you get these claims about people. Okay, someone in a divorce making a claim, well, they have, of course, every incentive to lie or exaggerate. Former staff members, especially these days, you have staff members. I mean, we get these scandals with politicians. Sometimes we get them with talk show hosts. Oh, they're so mean. They're so mean. And then you hear the horror stories, and it's just like, that you showed up late to work and they told you, hey, don't be late or something. And then you went and cried in a bathroom for 45 minutes and had to go to a therapist. So a lot of times it's that. But you see something like this and you see the way she behaves on camera, and okay, well, that really comports. I mean, that if she's acting like that on camera, she's on camera and someone asked her a super easy question, and you could tell she wanted to just throttle this woman for asking the question. And okay, if that's how you can act on camera, you can only imagine what she's doing behind the scenes. So that's the first. The second thing is that it tells us is that Democrats, of course, live in a bubble, especially in California. They are never asked. It's not just that they're never asked hard questions. They aren't asked questions, period. They're never asked any real questions that have to be answered. They're never expected to give any real answers to anything at all. And this has made them extremely soft and very incapable of navigating even the friendliest, most sort of low stakes exchanges. But the third thing here, and this is to me the main point, as easy as the question is, or seems, for Democrats these days, it's not so easy. It's difficult. And it's difficult because they truly hate the voters on the other side. Her real answer that she didn't want to say is that she doesn't want their vote. That's a real answer. She doesn't want them. She doesn't want them to have a vote. She doesn't want them to be alive. She wishes they were dead. That's her real answer. If she was being totally honest and she was asked, well, what about the 40% of the public? What are you going to say to them? If she was being honest, what she would have said is, oh, what do I say to them? I say, go die. I say, hey, guys, why don't you go throw yourselves into the Pacific Ocean and drown, all of you and your children. That's what she would have said if she was being honest, because that's how she actually feels. And that's why she can't answer a question. To her, asking her how she's going to reach Republican voters, it's like asking her how she's going to reach out and appeal to, it's like if you had said to her, well, California has a heavy population of serial killers. What are you going to do to reach them? How are you going to appeal to the serial killer demographic? It's like, now, I mean, that's a bad example because in reality, Katie Porter has no problem reaching the serial killer vote. She would actually, I think she'd be very good at that because that's the vibe she gives off. And on top of that, the abortion industry supports her totally. So she has the serial killer vote already locked down. But you get my point. You get my point. And more than anything else, this is a reflection of how Democrats can't even pretend that they think their opponents are human beings. They can't even feign it. They can't. They can't feign it long enough for a powder puff interview with a friendly media outlet. They can't fake it long enough to just say, yes, I want to reach all voters. I will fight for everybody. Can't bring themselves to say it. Every time the left tries to silence us, we get louder. And on Thursday, October 16th, we're turning the volume all the way up. Take a look at the Daily Wire's new live uncensored show, Friendly Fire.
October 16th, we celebrate the 10-year anniversary of the Daily Wire. 10 years of leftist tears. New shows, big moves, bigger targets. And first up is our newest show, Friendly Fire.
Usually I kind of tune it out and then I come back in most of the time.
No safe words, no moderator.
Not to be obscene, but those are underwhelming breasts. Yeah. By the way, that is the best evidence that he did not draw because you know that he would have gone double D if he had drawn it.
We're celebrating our first decade and kicking off the next 10 years by doing what we do best.
Roll it back.
Picking arguments, starting fights, and filming the whole thing.
I find that horribly offensive.
You almost ruined my marriage. We're always kind of looking forward to what's the next big thing.
This segment, no one is disagreeing, but I actually find the whole conversation very disagreeable and unpleasant.
October 16th on Daily Wire.
Welcome to week 7 of the Pendragon Cycle.
Pendragon Cycle TV show.
Mark your calendars. Friendly Fire premieres October 16th at 7 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on Daily Wire Plus. Don't miss out. Join now and get 40% off new annual memberships with code FALL40 at dailywireplus.com. All right, here's the Secretary of Transportation on the legalization of weed. He was interviewed on, I think it's Fox and Friends. Let's listen.
Here's the problem. With alcohol, I can look at Brian, I can smell Brian if he's been drinking in the car. There's telltale signs. And then I can get my breathalyzer. Yeah. Right. And then I can take a blood test later. It's hard with marijuana. We don't have the systems in place to tell if you were smoking marijuana before you got in the car. So the systems aren't there at a time when culture is pushing and celebrating the use of marijuana. We're not talking about the risks. We lose 42,000 people on the roads every year. But way too many.
So do you think that we should legalize it? That's where the president's thinking about changing its ranking, its schedule. I think it would be a huge mistake.
Listen, I understand.
He's getting a lot of pressure to do it.
I understand he's getting pressure. Listen, I've got 9 kids. I see what these drugs do. I'm not a supporter of legalizing it. And again, I was a prosecutor. We didn't send people to prison for a quarter-ounce bag or an eighth-ounce bag of marijuana. They got a city citation. They're not going to prison for this. But to legalize it and to say it's okay for our kids and our young people to smoke it, and it's good for them, and they get behind cars, it's dangerous. And listen, it's taking lives.
And it's addictive.
Something else that's
really addictive. And by the way, it's not the 1960s marijuana.
Right.
This is way more dangerous stuff.
Yeah.
And then they're lacing it with other materials that are incredibly dangerous.
Yeah, well, so of course, I mean, he's right. And of course, weed is linked to traffic deaths, right? It's a mind-altering substance. It makes you hazy and tired and lowers your reaction times. It affects your brain, affects your mind. A lot of people are smoking the stuff now, and most of them are driving, so not hard to work out the calculus. And yet the potheads still aren't ready to have this conversation. They aren't ready to admit that there are any downsides to weed at all. And that's really what gets me about this topic. And you know how I feel about it. We don't have to get into the debate again. Yeah, I've laid out I also think that weed should be banned. Federally, it should be banned across the country. I give my reasons why, but you don't have to agree with that. What gets me about it is this, that it's this total lack of, perhaps to be expected, total lack of realism and honesty on the part of the pot advocates. I'm not even accusing them of explicitly lying. I think there's some of that, but I think they're lying to themselves. They're lying to themselves. And so then what they say is just, it's not realistic. You're not living in reality. And it's unlike anything else in that regard. So there are plenty of people, myself included, who enjoy alcohol in moderation. Plenty of people who enjoy it not in moderation also. But the alcohol enjoyers, they're not going to deny the health downsides. I've never heard that. I've never heard anyone who likes to have a drink on occasion deny that there are health problems associated with it. We're not going to deny that, drinking and driving is bad. You definitely shouldn't do it. It's a big problem. We're not going to deny that, drinking can mess up your liver. You can make you gain weight. There are all kinds of possible complications. You drink too much, it could cause brain damage. I mean, it screws up all your internal organs, right? But we won't deny that. There's plenty of denial among full-blown alcoholics. I'm not suggesting otherwise. I'm just saying that I've never heard anyone claim that you can drink basically however much you want without any measurable downside. Nobody claims that. Now, people might deny, if they're in denial and they're alcoholics, they might deny that they themselves are guilty of that kind of overindulgence, but they will at least agree that overindulging is possible and it is bad, right? They'll agree that, people do that and it's bad, but I don't. That's where the denial comes in. But at least there's that fundamental agreement that, alcohol can definitely be dangerous if you drink too much of it, and it's not the healthiest thing. Like it's obviously not healthy, all things considered. But among potheads, there's just no acknowledgement from what I've seen. I don't think I'm making a straw man here. There's just really no acknowledgement of any downsides. They refuse to acknowledge it. If you say, it causes car accidents, they'll deny that. They'll actually try to deny that. So of course it causes car accidents. What are you talking? Obviously, a lot of people are smoking it. They get high. You get behind the wheel of a car. That's far from ideal. Your reaction times are lower. You're not sober. So anytime you're driving not sober, your chances of getting into an accident are increased. So clearly this is causing accidents. And because of the number of people who drive in America and the number of people who are smoking, we might not know the exact number, but we can assume that it's a pretty high number. And yet you get these pot advocates who they won't acknowledge that. If you talk about the studies, say, it's linked to cancer, they won't acknowledge it. You talk about the studies that it's linked to psychosis. It's a mind-altering substance. They won't acknowledge it. They just refuse to acknowledge that. I don't know. There's no downside from what I've seen that these people will say, yeah, that is true. That's true. It does do that. That is a risk. That is a downside. However, I still like to smoke it because XYZ, and I think it should be legal because XYZ. That's at least an argument that, like, that's a conversation we could have. But what I find is just total, absolute, across the board denial where you want to believe that, well, it was made by God. It's a plant. Who cares if it was a plant? There's a lot of plants out there that you're not supposed to ingest. That doesn't mean, yes, it's naturally occurring. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's perfectly okay to ingest. Okay, try going out into the forest sometime and just ingesting any plant you see. Actually, don't try that because you'll die because there's a lot of stuff out there you're not supposed to ingest. But that's the answer you get, and it's totally ridiculous. And it's denial. It's total denial. Finally, this went viral. Here's a post from Colin Rugg. We'll play the video as I read the caption. There's no audio to it, so you can see there. China officially opens the world's tallest bridge, completing the project in under 4 years. The bridge features a restaurant at the top, a whopping 2,600 feet above the river. The bridge not only cuts a 2-hour drive to 2 minutes, but also features a theme park with a glass skywalk, a high-speed glass elevator, and a waterfall off the edge of the bridge. Okay. So, very impressive, as you can see. And of course, the reason I think it's going viral is that people in America are looking at it. You look at the comments, and it's just all these comments saying, asking the same question, which is, why aren't we building stuff like this anymore? Right? Why is it, if there's some big, impressive architectural engineering feat, it's always China doing it these days. And how did they build this giant bridge across this 2,000-foot canyon in 4 years? And there's like restaurants and theme parks and everything. Meanwhile, the Key Bridge in Baltimore had a cargo ship ram into it 2 years ago, and there's still a giant gaping hole in the side of it. They haven't even started to fix it yet. So what's going on? I mean, why don't we do this? When was our last great architectural feat? When was our last engineering marvel? We've had a lot of them. No one's had more than us. I mean, we are the country that dug the Panama Canal. We dug a canal across 51 miles of jungle and connected 2 oceans together. Something multiple countries tried to do and failed, and we went in and did it. We built the Empire State Building, 1,200 feet high. Took 1 year. They did it in 1 year, and not only is it a really high building, the tallest in the world at the time that it was built, it's also beautiful. It's a beautiful building on top of just being really big. Built the Hoover Dam, the largest concrete structure ever built at the time. Built the Golden Gate Bridge, longest suspension bridge ever built at the time. That thing is anchored like 200 feet below sea level. And again, it's not only big, and it was built quickly, it was built in 4 years. Not only big, built quickly, has withstood the test of time. It's beautiful. It's like art also. That was also in the 1930s. We built the Transcontinental Railroad. Do you understand the Transcontinental Railroad was built across like 2,000 miles through desert, through mountains, through forests, across great plains, right? They were getting attacked by Indians, bandits. There were diseases. 1,500 workers died. And they completed it in the 1860s with 1860s technology. And if it's been a while since you studied this in school, guess how long? 6 years. In the 1860s. No modern technology at all to speak of. People dying by the hundreds building this railroad over mountains and across deserts. 6 years. We can't even build a parking garage in that amount of time now. Okay, it'll take 6 years just to get the zoning permits to build a parking garage. If they tried to build that Chinese bridge in California today, it'd take 14 years just to begin construction. They'd start talking about it now, right, with a goal of, okay, this will begin construction in the year 2040. And then when it begins, it'll be canceled years before it was ever going to be completed. So what changed? I mean, why can't we do stuff like this anymore? Well, part of it is what I just mentioned: endless tape, permits, endless red tape, permits, zoning stuff, restrictions, endless bureaucratic meddling. It just makes it impossible to do anything great, anything awesome. Certainly like a tolerance for danger. We have no tolerance for that at all anymore. When we were building the Panama Canal, building the Transcontinental Railroad, we went into it knowing like, okay, a lot, when the workers showed up, it was like, a lot of you are going to die doing this, by the way. Here's what we're doing, and a lot of you are going to die trying to do it. That's the deal. Now, I'm not suggesting that we should accept that much carnage. Like, we don't need to. We also have modern technology. We have modern medicine. So that's, I'm not saying people should sign up for, to give their lives for a construction project. But what I'm saying is we've gone all the way to the other extreme, and that's part of the problem. And as a country, so we just can't do it. We can't do anything great, anything awesome. And that really is the primary reason. That's the primary reason to build a bridge like the one in China. Sure, it has a practical purpose. It cuts a 2-hour drive into 2 minutes. But also, you should build the bridge because it's awesome. That's why you should do it. Why do you build the giant bridge and you got the theme park and the restaurant on it and it's really high and it cuts down a commute, but why do you really build it? Because it's really cool. That's why. Because you want to be able to say you did it. Okay? Because as a country, you should be doing awesome. That's why. It's that simple. You should do it because it's great. You should do it because you can. But that reasoning is not convincing to bureaucrats. That's the problem. They don't care about greatness. They don't care about anything. They're nihilistic meddlers who exist solely to justify their own jobs and for no other purpose. I mean, asking why a bureaucrat exists, asking why are you doing this? It's like asking why cancer exists. Well, it exists to eat away and destroy. That's why it's there. It doesn't have any other purpose. It's not thinking about what it's doing. It's just that's why it's there. And as bureaucrats, it's just like their job is, okay, well, you want to do something awesome? We're going to make it impossible for you. And if you were to ask them, why are you doing this to us? Why? Why are you making this impossible? We want to do something awesome. Why are you doing everything you can to stop us? They don't have an answer. As I said, it's like asking a cancerous tumor why it's doing what it's doing. There's no answer. So that's part of the problem. Also, we rely on cheap, bad Mexican labor for everything now. Even though we built all those incredible things without Mexican labor, now we're told that, well, you can't. Oh, we got to have the Mexican. You got to have the labor here from South America and Central America, because otherwise you can't build anything. Well, okay, well, that's interesting. So how did we build everything without them to begin with, huh? Now we can't do anything. Now we can't do anything without Mexican labor. Well, how did we build the country without them? I'd like to know. And then also, finally, I think, and this is the biggest problem, is that we've just lost the will and desire to do the great things. I think we have. And that's the saddest thing about, the state of the country right now. We talk about making America great again. Well, we will be great again when we as a nation have the will and desire to go out and do impossible things just for the sake of doing them. That's the kind of greatness that has defined our country since its beginning. Go do something impossible, do something unthinkable, do something historic, just to do it. And anyone asks you, well, why? Why are we doing that? It's like those people are so weak and pathetic. It's not even worth answering them. The answer should be self-evident. The answer is in the greatness of the thing itself. When you go out to do something great and someone says, why are you doing this? Well, if that's not because it's great, because look at it, that's why. And if that's not immediately obvious to you, then you're not worth talking to. You shouldn't have a voice in this conversation. Now, there are still Americans individually who have that drive, obviously, but there are Americans who do impressive things all the time. But as a nation, I don't think that we have that. And a lot of that goes to leadership. And I'm not specifically talking about the White House right now. I'm talking about this is a decades, multi-decades long problem. And I'm talking about leadership institutionally across the board. And it's a cultural problem. It's a lot of things. And, and I think that's what we lost. And that's why I go on and on about space exploration all the time. And people will say to that, oh, there's no point. Why waste the money? Why waste the money on that? Waste money? What are you talking about? We waste money in a million ways already. If you're really worried about we're wasting money, there's so many other. We waste money when we give fat people food stamps so they can buy Dr. Pepper. Okay, that's wasting money. We waste money in a million different ways that you can count. This is not wasting money. Going out into space, the great unknown, doing things that no human has ever done or conceived of doing, making history, changing civilization, doing something that they'll be reading about in history books. That are implanted on their forearms 500 years from now. Like that can never be a waste of money. How could it be? What is the point of money? What's the point of being a wealthy country, a highly advanced wealthy country, if you're not going to do stuff like that? What's the point? So, that's what we need to get back to. And a lot of it is it is a cultural thing. Like we have to have that desire in us. A lot of us are not going to be the ones who go and do that. I'm not actually going to be the one. I'd love to go into space. I got 6 kids now. My wife probably would not approve. So I've aged out. I've aged out of space exploration. I still think it should be done. And there is something to. So even if you're not going to go out and do the thing. Just like I say, we built the Panama Canal. Well, most Americans didn't build it. We built the Empire State Building. I say we. Most Americans, the vast majority of Americans, even alive at the time, had no hand in that. But you do have a hand in it if you, by just the desire to see it done, by supporting it, by like calling for it. I mean, this was at the time culturally there was this cultural, and I say at the time, I mean for decades, for the entire history of America up until very recently, the culture demanded it. Everybody wanted it. We want to see this country do incredible, great, awesome things. And in that environment, that's where the people who know how to do those things can step up and say, okay, you guys want this and you're going to support it. You're going to support it financially. You're going to give it the moral support it needs and all that. Then I'll go do it. I'll be the guy. And we need to create that environment, I think, and we don't right now. So there it is. That's my speech for today. Get back to greatness. And we're going to leave it there for today. We'll be back tomorrow, Thursday. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Have a great day. Godspeed.
Hey there, I'm Daily Wire Executive Editor John Bickley.
And I'm Georgia Howe, and we're the hosts of Morning Wire.
We bring you all the news you need to know in 15 minutes or less.
Watch and listen to Morning Wire 7 days a week, everywhere you get your podcasts.